The boy, 15 at the time of the killing, stabbed Mrs Maguire 7 times in the neck and back in front of horrified classmates before boasting good times. Evil schoolboy Will Cornick winked at his pal before calmly stabbing his Spanish teacher to death and boasting good times. The 15-year-old, who had a deadly hit list of 3 names, stabbed Anne Maguire 7 times in the neck and back in front of his horrified classmates. One blow with the 21 cm kitchen knife passed straight through her neck before she fled the classroom screaming in pain. As the 61-year-old tried to escape, with blood pouring down her back, Cornick chased after her until brave colleague, Susan Francis, grabbed their stricken teacher and pushed her in a workroom, shutting the door and holding her foot against it. She watched Cornick through the glass panel of the door and said he looked emotionless before he walked away. Tragically, Anne Maguire later died, becoming the first teacher to be stabbed to death in a British classroom. Yesterday it emerged her killer returned to his classroom with bizarre calmness, telling the other pupils good times and speaking about an adrenaline rush. When 2 male teachers arrived, he sat with his arms up and told them, "Can you be careful? My knuckle hurts and my hand is bleeding." Yesterday it emerged the teenager, now 16, had other targets, including a young pregnant teacher Sinead Miley and his head of the year, Andrew Kellett, at Corpus Christi Catholic College in Leeds. On April 28 this year, he began to act out this fantasy when he murdered Mrs Maguire. Yesterday at Leeds Crown Court the teen was detained at Her Majesty's pleasure for a minimum of 20 years, after admitting murder. Mr Justice Coulson warned the teenager he may never be released because of his truly grotesque, total and chilling, lack of remorse. One psychiatrist said Cornick displayed a degree of callousness rarely seen in clinical practice, but experts all agreed he was not mentally ill. In court yesterday it was revealed when asked how he thought Mrs Maguire's family felt, the teen quipped, "I couldn't give a st." He branded his victim barely human and revealed he hated Spanish and his teacher. When asked how he felt about murdering Anne, he told doctors he was fine and dandy and even proud of killing her. He told a psychiatrist how he had wanted Mrs Maguire dead for at least 3 years. The court heard he was angry with Mrs Maguire, who had banned him from a school bowling trip after he failed to do his Spanish homework. He went anyway and was excluded for 1 day. He sent a message to a friend on Facebook 3 days before he stabbed his teacher, severing her jugular vein, breaking 2 ribs, stabbing her neck and piercing her right lung. He told his pal in a message, "The one absolute fucking bitch that deserves more than death, more than pain, torture and more than anything that we can understand." After the murder, he revealed to a doctor: "I decided homicide rather than suicide. I don't know why. I'd had homicidal thoughts since February. I just knew I was going to kill her. On the Sunday I thought I was going to get my weapon. I'd considered a blunt object, for example, a stick, but this would be hard to hide and hard to do. I considered a gun, but I couldn't get one and I didn't know where to start. I'd considered gravity. I'd thought about breaking a window and pushing her out, but I couldn't break the window. I decided on the Sunday it was going to be a knife. I thought I was just going to go to school and wait for her lesson and do it. I wanted to get caught, that's why I did it in school." He also told a doctor, "The killing was always on my mind since year 8, the thought of homicide, murdering her. I was always telling my friends the bitch was terrible. Life is pretty fucking shit. I couldn't see myself passing college and had no hope of doing anything. I tried to apply for the army, but they said no because of my diabetes. I knew what I was going to do, it was what I did. I said I was going to do other stuff, but I never got the chance, other murders. It was a triple homicide. What I have done, I couldn't give a shit." When asked about the impact on Mrs Maguire's family, he countered, "I couldn't give a shit, and later I know the victim's family will be upset, but I don't care. In my eyes, everything is fine and dandy." Asked about his feelings about the killing, he said, I wasn't in shock, I was happy. I had a sense of pride. I still do. I know it's uncivilized, but I know it's incredibly instinctual and human. Past generations of life, killing is a route of survival. It's kill or be killed. I did not have a choice. It was kill her or suicide. Yesterday, as Anne's family wept, the teenager sat in the dock wearing a smart suit and tie, fiddling with his fingers and only occasionally glancing up. His dad, council executive, Ian, 50, and his mum Michelle, 48, a human resources manager, who split up around 10 years ago, sat silently. Behind him in the glass dock, alongside 5 prison officers. They were praised by the judge for deciding to sit in the dock with their son and were described as decent people and responsible parents. Prosecutor Paul Greenick QC told the court, they are at a loss to understand how and why their son has turned out as he has, and they have cooperated fully with the police and with the prosecution. The only time Cornick showed even a flicker of emotion was when video evidence of his classmates' video interviews were shown. He shifted uncomfortably as his friends described the day their teacher was murdered. The court heard Cornick had brandished 2 knives to other children in the morning, threatening to kill them if they revealed his plan. He also had a bottle of Jack Daniels with him to celebrate. In a video interview, one pal said, "Miss sent us 2 and a group of others next door to type up our assessments. We sat next to each other. He started talking to me about how he'd made up his mind he did not like his life. He opened his bag and there was a knife. A big knife, like a chef's on TV they use for cutting up vegetables. He started asking me if I could check if it was sharp enough. I said no, I didn't want to touch it. I was shocked he had a knife in school. He started telling me, you wanted to be a chef, you should know. First he tried hiding it up his sleeve but it wouldn't fit, then tried putting it in his left blazer pocket. He then got up from his seat, looked at me, winked and then left. After that I didn't see what was happening, but all I could hear was screaming from the room next door. Then I could see the students running. He came back in and said, I stabbed her, pity she didn't die. He grabbed his bag, put it on and sat at the computer waiting for the teachers to come and sort it out. Another pupil, who saw the stabbing, told police, we were all sat in Miss Maguire's room working away. I heard the door go and looked up. It was Will. I remember hearing Mrs Maguire scream. Next thing I remember is hearing everyone in the classroom screaming in utter panic. They shot up and bolted out of the room. I just remember being sat there watching. Will was stabbing her over and over again. I think I recall him punching her at one point as well. Miss Maguire ran out of the room screaming in pain, with blood all over her back, and Will following her and, from what I could tell, continuing to attack her. He said there were only 4 classmates left in the room, so they locked the door. I remember sitting there in absolute panic, he added. Pupil 3 said, it was about 11:45 and I had just been talking to Miss Maguire. She ended the conversation saying, now is not there time for talking, get on with your work. He said he then heard a bang at the door. I looked up and saw Will, but I thought nothing of it. It sounds like a movie, but I caught a glint when the light hits something. I heard a sound like when someone pats your back, like a thump. I thought it was a weird sound to hear in the classroom. Then I heard a shout. It was Miss Maguire's voice. At that point everything slowed down. Then I heard another classmate scream. I've looked up and I've seen Will standing behind Miss Maguire, who is now leant forward over her desk, with a big kitchen knife in his hand. It was just a big 6-inch, maybe longer. I've seen it and it's got blood on it. I've looked up and everyone started screaming and everyone's sort of shouting and screaming and racing to get out of the classroom. Detaining Cornick, the judge said, there can be no doubt that the defendant is highly dangerous.